You're listening to the Hello Awesome podcast, and this is episode 101. Welcome back, friends. I am so happy to be here once again chatting with you. How fun was last week's episode? You guys have been messaging me and tagging me in your posts on Instagram, and I've been loving them. I'm so excited about all of you who are entering the giveaway and just seeing all of your love for the show. Thank you so much. If you haven't listened yet, we celebrated together the 100th podcast episode, complete with bloopers, voice memos, a detailed Q&A about podcasting, and my favorite, the first ever podcast giveaway. Listen to it for all the details on how you could be one of the 3 winners to receive a free digital devotional package. So after you listen to this episode, go back to the episode before, episode number 100, to find out all about the info. You guys have until the end of the month to enter into the giveaway, so please hurry and do that really soon. Okay, before we get into this incredible interview, I do have to remind you that Mother's Day is less than 2 weeks away. So if you've been scrambling your mind about what to get those precious mamas in your life, please check out our complete inventory of gifts at helloawesome.live. Place your order by this Friday, April 30th, to guarantee on-time delivery just in time for Mother's Day, which is on May 9th. Yeah, it's right around the corner. I have books, mugs, teas, vintage purses, and hats, and so many more wholesome items to choose from. And just for fun, use code HELLO10 for 10% off your entire order. You're welcome. So, no more excuses. Go find something special at helloawesome.live and bless those sweet mamas. They deserve it. All right, fam. We have the lovely Diana Carrera here today, also known on Instagram as d.modestmama. Diana shares how she started her modest fashion journey. She has some encouragement for those wanting to explore their fashion sense, what God's been showing her through motherhood, and why it's important to raise godly boys. It is so good. So let's get into this discussion right now. Here is episode number 101 that I am calling Raising Godly Boys with Diana Carrera. Hey guys, I'm JC. Are you ready for real conversations about faith, business, and life? Me too. This is the Hello Awesome podcast, where I bring forth topics and truthful insights that will encourage you to make intentional choices and pursue God with your whole heart. Are you ready to say hello to the awesome blessings that God has for you? All right, let's do this. The Hello Awesome podcast is sponsored by some good friends who want to give you a special treat just for showing up. If you're looking for super cute, modest clothing that is both classy and fun, Nuggles has you covered. Use code HelloAwesome10 for 10% off at www.nuggles.us. That's www.nuggles.us, and stock up on essential yet affordable apparel right now. If this windy weather is leaving your skin crying out for help like mine, Oneness Essentials has what you need to be nourished again. Their handmade lotions and soap bars are seriously heavenly and smell amazing. Use code HelloAwesome at onenesssoapbiz.com for 15% off your next order of bath and body products today. That's ONENESSSOAPBIZ.com. Are you in love with a good scrunchie? If you know me, then you know my answer is duh. And my favorite ones are from Vida. These are high quality, handcrafted scrunchies straight out of Indy. Seriously, they're perfect for long hair. Use code PODCAST for 10% off to pick up a handful of scrunchies like the popular crushed velvet or satin bow at sewvida.com. That's SEWVIDA.com. Go grab a bunch to add to your collection or give away as the perfect gift. I want to give a big shout out to those of you who are working in the medical field, especially our nurses and technicians. Bravo to you guys, y'all are the real MVPs. If you need comfortable scrub skirts so that you can serve others while sticking to your modest lifestyle, See Saucy is the place for you. Use code HELLO10 for 10% off your entire order right now when you check out at SeeSaucy.com. That's CSAUCY.com. Go invest in a comfortable scrub skirt right now with See Saucy so that you can just focus on your patients and continue on being a light. Okay, who says athletic wear is boring? Not with Snoga Althetics. With so many fun colors and designs to choose from, you no longer have to struggle to stay modest when you are ready to be active. Use code JC10 for 10% off your minimum purchase of $20 and get free shipping on orders of $120 or more. This code doesn't apply to the Courtney T. Oliver collection, and it's valid through April 30th at midnight. That code is JACY10 for 10% off your minimum purchase of $20 right now at SnogaAthletics.com. That's SNOGAATHLETICS.com. Hey everybody, it's JC here. Welcome back to the Hello Awesome podcast. I have a brand new guest with me, Diana. It is such a pleasure to talk with you today. Finally, we can put the voice to the beautiful face. I cannot wait to talk to you. I would love for you to share with everybody listening who you are, what you do, and where they actually might know you from.
Well, hello, everyone. It is a pleasure and a humbling experience to be on here. I'm Diana Carrera. I am a Maryland resident, married with two beautiful boys. If you know me, you probably know me from Instagram, D Modest Mama. And yeah, I participate in my church, my local church here, which is pastored by my father. And I also help along with his blogs there at the church. And I also have my own personal blog too.
That is so cool. I did not know that you were a pastor's daughter, and I think that's so encouraging. Is it if you don't mind me asking, is it a Spanish church or is it multicultural?
Yeah, it is a Spanish church. Our goal in the next couple of years, I think, was to, create that environment where we can, start doing services bilingual and not, close off that door because, the gospel is for everyone. So hopefully in the future, we can be a multicultural church.
Mm-hmm. That's so cool. I love that. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, a lot of things, because we've just connected so well online, and I know we're just going to be chatting like we've been sisters or something. But one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is modest fashion, because, on Instagram, you share so many like fun modern looks, and there's been so many times like you'll post something and I'm like, I wouldn't even have thought of that, but it looks so good. I'm going to have to remember that. And I probably have some of your looks saved. And so, have you always loved fashion and putting outfits together? Like, where did the love of fashion come from?
I mean, honestly, growing up, I would say I would consider myself a tomboy. I would hate dresses. Like my mom would always try to like put these fancy dresses with those poofy sleeves, and I would hate it. So the last thing I wanted was anything fashion related. But, as you grow up and you start to see like, oh, I'm changing, I have to start dressing accordingly, like a young lady. So I think like once I hit like 13, 14, I started getting interested into the like, the fashion. But like until I got my first job, that's when I went like crazy because I was able to buy my own things and just like wear what I thought, looked best on me. So I think within that time frame, the 13 to 18 years old, that's when I started to kind of get that love for fashion and just enjoying the different pieces together and just creating stuff that like resembled how I felt or how, I wanted to be perceived by everyone else.
Right. Right. I didn't have this question written down, but knowing now that your pastor is your dad and, your pastor's daughter, have you always grown up in church, or was that something that came later on in life?
So my parents didn't meet Christ until I was about 5 years old. So I would say I grew up in church. I wasn't born into church, but at the age of 5, it's easy to kind of adapt to what you're learning, what you're seeing. So I always like to say like I was part of the church my entire life.
Oh, yeah,
But yeah.
definitely.
Hmm.
Yeah. And, I have a 5-year-old too, and he's only going to remember stuff from like now and on.
Right, right.
Yeah, I was just curious because I think it just makes a difference when it comes to like modest fashion and how that relationship is with different people, especially with their background. And if you've been around it for so long, you just kind of know like this is just what we do, like this is the right thing. And
Right.
like my story is a little bit different. Was when I got saved, I was 22. So I had to like deprogram. So my love for fashion didn't come until much later, like probably honestly probably like 2 years ago, but just like the love of fashion, I took to modest fashion right away because it just made sense to me. Like it just made sense to how we can honor our bodies that way and how we can just honor God that way.
Right.
But actually loving like putting outfits together and having fun with it, that didn't come till like much later for me. um but I think it's such a cool thing that you had, and maybe you didn't, but it feels for me looking that you had like the confidence to just share your style on social media. And I want to know like how did you start with your page and your blog and sharing that part of your life?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna be like straight up honest. I did speak about it on a live one day, but I only had like 5 people on there, so I kind of felt to open up. Maybe I spoke to someone that day, but
Mm-hmm.
um, when I started this blog, it's gonna be about 2 years now. In January 1st, I was in a pretty dark place. I'm not gonna lie. Um, like if you would have seen me on the outside, I look like just like every other apostolic Pentecostal girl out there.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were to really look at what was going inside my mind, my heart, it was just a lot of brokenness. And I feel like I feel like when I did this, it was in a way to, a cry for help, for God to like look down at me and say, you know, I'm going to help you. I'm going to pick you back up and you're going to rise up again.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I was a pastor's daughter. I am a pastor's daughter. So I don't take lightly speaking about this, but I think it's important to always talk about your low points, because we all have those scars that we're so scared to show, but just how Jesus showed his scars to his disciples for them to believe it was actually him. We have to show our scars to say, look, God really healed me. God helped me out from my dark place. He helped me out from whatever sin I was in, and I'm here now. So I think once I opened this page, I was still broken. Like I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
say I was perfect all the time. um I was not, the ideal pastor's daughter or pastoral family,
Sure.
but I know that God was breaking down and building up. And I think it wasn't until this year that a lot of things just kind of finally fell into place. A lot of things that, I was waiting for. God said, you still got to wait on this, but I have you.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, this page has been more of a blessing for me than for, like I'm glad that I'm able to inspire other people, but it was actually to help me get closer to God. And I thought
Yeah.
maybe if I start to portray and resemble someone that I aspire to be, then God will come and continue to work on the interior, on the inside.
Yeah. I think a lot of people look to social media to, you know, for help. I think a lot of people do turn to social media for help, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because I do think that God can use anything. And I think he definitely can use a tool like social media to bring us to the right people that can help us. And one of the beautiful things about Instagram is the community. And my husband is not social media savvy at all. He could care less. So, I have to explain to him, and he's super supportive, but I have to explain to him just how, it's different when you have like-minded people who believe in God, and they encourage you and they lift you up when you don't feel like you're good enough or you don't feel like you're worthy. And they encourage you and say, like, you're so beautiful today. I can see, I don't know, the light of the Lord on you or whatever. And I'm sure all of those things helped with hopefully healing for you. And you said something about, like showing our scars. And I don't know why I wrote it down, because it just sounded so profound. And maybe we should talk about that a little bit. Like, do you think that even though you're sharing like modest fashion, um, that's kind of like opening the door so you can share deeper things, and so that people can see that deep down we are all the same? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Totally. This year, like I said, I'm sure for like most of us, it's been a year of like so much like, God, why? You know?
Yeah, for
And
real.
like I was honestly, I had COVID for like 6 weeks. It would not go away. And then I was recently in a car accident, so I haven't been working like for most of this year. And it's during those times where you're just like, God, what is going on? Like, what's happening? And your faith is tested, your stability, your foundation is shaking, and you're just like, what's going on? And he's like, don't worry about it. I got you. And I've been pretty open about kind of like the things that's been going on in my life. And I've gotten messages from like either young girls or moms like me, like saying, oh, I really resonated with that, or like that really touched my heart. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's so important to sometimes just be you. It's fun to post the outfits. It's fun to share the latest sale going on, but at the end of the day, like what is my purpose? And I want to show whoever is there and listening that there is something greater out there, something better for your life. And just sharing my little piece of the puzzle to like the grand masterpiece that God has. It's just so, it feels liberating, because you're able to finally like show like, look what God is doing, and look what God has done. But also you motivate those people who are probably on borderline, either leaving the church or borderline, maybe thinking like, should I do it or should I not? So I think
Mm-hmm.
it's extremely important to use our platforms, yes, to inspire, to have fun, but also to reach out to those who really need it. And I always, every time someone reaches out to me and says, oh yeah, like I'm going through this, and I'm like, you know what, anytime you can just message me and we can chat about it, I'll pray. Making those connections and being real is just for me, it's like so great, because I love to help. I love to, like I said, to talk. I rather talk and spend hours. And if that makes someone's day, like, let's do it. I don't mind. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm the same way. I think it is so important to, yeah, have fun and use our platforms to inspire. I know I try doing that, but the real conversations do happen in the DMs, and they do happen in the messages. And then just that connection, like you said, and letting people know that they're being heard. Hey, you sent me this message and I heard you, and I'm gonna pray for you. And that can make somebody's day. We don't understand what people are going through. We don't know if there's somebody, who's struggling, who really, they don't have somebody that they can turn to. And especially if they're going through something, there's a lot of guilt and shame out there. And so it's not our job to, judge. We don't have all the details, but we do know the one who does. So that's
Right.
why, going to him is is an amazing opportunity. And to be able to do that on the behalf of somebody who needs it, that's truly awesome. And, I was just thinking about all of the modest fashion bloggers who are out there now. And, a couple years ago, there wasn't that many, but now there's so many, and I love it. And everybody has such a unique style. You can see their personality come out. And I want to know, does it excite you to see all of these diverse fashion bloggers out there right now?
Oh yes, like I love to see people starting accounts. I love when people, they're like, "Hey, can you like, shout me out because I'm a baby account or I'm just starting." Like, I'm like, "Yes, let's do it. Let's spread modesty. Let's spread, like it's not just a fashion trend. It is, everyday life for us." And I love to see that. I've made some strong connections with many girls on there. And it's a nice community to have too. You have your little niche, and you're able to, talk about not just fashion with them, but like everyday life too. So I just love it. I'm excited to have such a strong group of girls on there.
Yeah, for real. I honestly, every time I see just the group get bigger and bigger and bigger, it just makes my joy get bigger and bigger and bigger because um social media is here. So however we use it, it's going to matter because pretty much we will be using it. And I think that some girl out there just decided I'm going to use it to share, modest fashion, and I'm going to use it to honor God and to show people how you can dress in a respectful way, in a beautiful way, and it be, like stylish or it be fun or youthful. And the fact that somebody actually like chose to put that out there is a big thing. And I don't think, sometimes they feel that way. I feel like sometimes like fashion in general gets a bad rap because it's easy for people to kind of boil it down and toss it aside and be like, oh, it's just clothes. Like it's not that serious. But like you said, I love what you said, that it's not just a fashion trend. Modest fashion is our lifestyle. And so if you out there, have a page and you have shared even like a cute, modest outfit, that is a big deal because that's you literally proclaiming to the world, yeah, I don't go by your standards, I go by God's standards, right?
Amen.
What would you tell the girl out there who is a little nervous to have fun with her modesty style or is nervous about sharing her style online, even though she really wants to? Could you give her some encouraging advice?
Sure. Um, I would just say be you. Like for me, it's just I remember growing up and being like awkward and just like it's hard to embrace change, and sometimes people are not really they're gonna be like, this is kind of, you look kind of funny, but okay, I guess I'll go with it. But if you're confident, you're gonna show that. You're gonna, whether I'm wearing a plastic bag, I'm going to be confident in it because I know my worth and I'm beautiful and clothes don't define me. And also you're representing Jesus. You are an ambassador of Christ. So whatever you wear that is modest and that, comes from you, your heart, and you're being yourself and you're representing God, that's the best thing to do. So I would say just go for it. I've had a couple people reach out and be like, I love how you did that, but I don't think it would go with me. I don't think I can pull that off. And I'm like, girl, just do it. The worst thing that can happen is that you won't like it and you just don't wear it
Right.
again. But just try it out. I've had so many outfits. I'm like, I don't know if this is going to be okay. You know what? Let me just put it on. And, I go out there, take my pictures, or I go out, with family or whatever. And I feel amazing. I feel great. And I'm like, oh, you know what? It actually did work out. So, I'd say go for it and just be you.
I love that. And that is so true. Sometimes you look at something on the hanger and you're like, no, I don't think that's it. And then you actually put it on and then you realize it actually does fit better than I thought it would. It goes better than what I thought it would. And then there's something that I can't wait to wear, and I put it on and I'm like, what? Like, why did I even buy this?
For sure.
It's so funny. Um, I did want to talk about being a boy mom because you and I are boy mamas. So shout out to all the boy mamas out there, the ones who are super scrappy with these little rugrats. I love, love, love being a boy mom. Super adventurous. And do you feel like having a mom who dresses modestly is teaching your boys to honor and respect women? I know that's a big question, but I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Um, yeah, definitely. It could be an aspect of teaching them. Um, I always, every time I get dressed or, I'm getting ready for church or something, my kids always come, Mama, you look so cute. And I'm like, thank you, baby. I'm like, yes, thanks for boosting up my
I love that.
confidence today, and their children are just like, they're so in tune with what's going on. We think they're like, oh, they're
Mm,
kids. They don't know what's going on. They know what's going on. And they
yeah.
see, what you do, what you say, what you wear, things like that. They know that. And a big thing that I've been learning, because you learn so much being a mom, whether it's a boy mom, girl mom, you learn so much. You learn that it's not just, learning to be, dressing modestly, but also thinking, speaking Christ-like,
Mm,
speaking in a way that is going to help them grow in all aspects. And it's something that I've learned, that I can't pour from an empty cup, and I can't pour into my children if I have trash inside of me, if I have worldly things, if I'm filling up my mind with things that are not gonna edify their lives, how am I gonna be pouring that into them or showing them that? So that's just like been a big eye opener now, because now they're talking to me and they're saying, well, why is this happening, or why are we doing that now?
yeah.
And they, like I said, they're so in tune to what's going on. So it's very important, like, not to just physically or outwardly show them that, hey, this is how we present ourselves as Christians, but also, how are we speaking to them, teaching them about his word, showing them like, hey, this is the way we live our life for Christ. And I feel like that also leads to the aspect of being able to teach them about respect towards women, towards everybody, because it's important to be able to approach someone when you're going out, and
Mm-hmm.
our character reflects what we are in Jesus. So yeah, it's truly,
Absolutely.
it's a big task. I
It
think
really
parenthood is
is.
a huge task.
Yeah, it really is. I know that my boys are 8 and 5, and it's so crazy. Just like the older they get, just the more, like you said, in tune they are. And I'm realizing like how deep, our conversations can get because they do, if they don't understand everything, they do get the principles for the most part. And I remember like was when I was about to have my second son, and I was like, God, like how could I do this? I'm going to be the only woman in this house. And it really freaked me out. It really did. I got like really nervous because I'm like, I know I have so much stuff that I need to change. And I knew that whatever I did as a mom, they would be thinking, oh, yeah, like this is what it is. You know what I mean? Like this is who like a woman should be, or this is who a
Right.
wife should be. And I'm like, I am not you know, a like Mrs. Smith, like housewife that makes sure everything is taken care of before her husband comes home and has
Right.
everything clean. I am not that at all. Um, and not saying that that's what I feel like they would expect, but I'm just saying like there's just different things like Lord, I am not clean enough. I'm not organized enough. I could barely get myself ready, and you expect me to get these kids ready, like just different things like that, just to be real. But I remember just the Lord placing it in my heart, the message for my book, The Glitter Effect, just talking about the power of influence. And it is true. You know, uh, our boys, our children are looking at not just what we wear. Of course, that is going to be important, but also like, I love what you were talking about, how we think, how we speak. Is it Christ-like? And I know for me, that's a sore for me because I just want to say whatever is on my mind. I got that Hispanic fire in me. You know how that
Yes,
is.
girl, yes.
And I have to remember, okay, now how I'm talking is might be culturally acceptable, but it's not Christ-like. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like it's not acceptable to Christ. That I think is the hardest part. And I think, kids can pick up on that for sure.
Definitely, definitely. And I'm totally with you on that. It's like a sore spot for me too. And I'm like,
Hmm.
God, please help me.
Yeah,
Give me
yeah.
strength to do this
And he does.
yeah.
Yeah. And I know out of this is I'm giving you like big questions here, but I did want to know because now that you're learning more about being a mom and kind of in the trenches, as they say, of motherhood, what is one thing that God has taught you about raising boys?
Lots of patience. I would say
Oh,
patience and
yes.
grace. You're never, I feel like it's just overall across the board, just being a mom,
Hmm.
it's never going to be perfect. Like, you're probably going to have a good day. It's not going to be a perfect day, but you know how a good day feels. And the next day can be like the worst day ever. Like, they're throwing tantrums left and right, you're trying to cook a meal for your husband and it's burning, and like, you feel like everything is falling apart. And I just feel like God's been teaching me a lot of patience and grace. Thank
Yes.
God for the tiniest thing. I'm alive, my children are alive, we're all healthy. And sometimes we tend to, put that aside. Like, yeah, you're supposed to give me life, God, because I'm your child. But like, give me the real blessings. And I feel like sometimes we forget, like, the principle, like, hey, I should be thanking God because we're all still here. I have my family. There's people who don't have the ability to see their families right now. And I feel like that's a huge blessing. And we have our life, we have our health, just a lot of grace. Just how God gives us grace each and every single day, and gives us
Hmm.
mercy. That's what we should be doing to ourselves in our homes and towards our kids, because they're also little humans that are trying to learn and explore the world. And I always
Right.
try to remind myself, like, they're still learning. And if you just take the time to teach them and to speak to them with love, then they're gonna be okay. They're gonna learn. It's just gonna take some time. It's just gonna be one day where they're gonna be their own person. And whatever you build up with them from now in childhood, it's gonna carry over to adulthood. And
Hmm.
I think it's just very important just to remember to be gracious and patient, and just take that time to build that relationship with your kids.
Yes, yes, I agree. I mean, I do think, for me, growing up, it was just so different. Just the attitude towards kids, and I'm not bashing my family at all. It was just kind of like across the board with different adults. Is I always had like these different adults, like kind of had like a bad attitude just because I was like a little kid. And I try very hard not to do that to my boys, even though I probably do it, obviously, to be real. But I try not to because I love what you said about them being little humans. I often say, like, kids are not robots. You don't just plug in what you want them to do. Let's program this child to do this thing and then expect them to do it perfectly. And I feel
Right.
like so many adults feel like that. Like they feel like, oh, this kid is not doing this, because I gave him this programming and he needs to do this. And, all of us do that. But that grace, like you said, giving grace to our children is a huge thing. And I love what you said about being thankful too, because I find myself when I'm praying with the kids being like, thank you, Jesus, for this home. Thank you for the food. And I keep reminding him, hey, we got to say thank you for those things because there are kids who don't have that. There
Yep.
are families who don't have that. And, I think for me, one of the biggest things is like forgiveness and asking the boys to like forgive me. That has been super huge, especially like as they've gotten older. Like
Yeah.
you said, building those connections, they're real people.
Yeah.
They're humans. Like they have personality,
Yeah.
okay? We
I
know
can't
that.
believe that.
They are their own person. Like you'll see one boy do something or one child do something totally different than the other child.
Yep.
And it's not like right or wrong, but you're like, wow, they are just different people how they think. Like that you probably know like one son probably wouldn't do the same thing as the other son even though you gave them the same job. They will
Yep.
probably accomplish the job, but they'll do it their own way. And I found too, especially with my oldest, he's 8 now obviously, so I've just been trying to remember, and I'll tell him this is like, dude, you've never been 8 before. I've never been a mother of an 8-year-old before, right? When you put it in perspective, I've never been a mom of an 8-year-old before. What do I know? I know nothing. So I keep telling him like, dude, I was not very patient with you today. Like I probably lost my temper. Maybe I yelled at you. I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry I did that today. You actually didn't deserve it. It was my fault. Like and especially if it was like I do want him to be accountable, so if there's certain things I'll bring it up that he should have done, but then I also have to be accountable of like, even though you didn't do this, I shouldn't have treated you like that. So we have that like open communication. That's just something that hopefully I'll keep doing because I think it really makes a difference.
I feel like it does too. My 5-year-old is, he's like wise beyond his years, and like he's actually in speech therapy. So, he wasn't able to communicate as much. Maybe I did something before, and he never, responded to me, saying, "Hey, don't do that. I don't like that."
Mm.
But now he's just like, he won't stop. And I'm just like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that bothered you. Like, I'm okay. Like, I won't do that again." And she's just like, "Oh, mama, sometimes you're annoying." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Oh,
But I'm like,
oh my
well, I'm
gosh, that's
glad
so
though.
great.
Like, I know we have to build that, those relationships, but I'm just so glad that, being able to still respectfully, I'm still your mother and he's still my son. So
Mhm.
while keeping that respect for each other too. And I just love to see how much they've grown and how they've made me grow too, because honestly, if I were not a mom at this age, I'd probably be a totally different person. Um,
Yeah,
because they just teach you so much, and I just love being a mom. And sometimes
yeah,
they do drive us insane, and it's okay to
right.
say, because at the end of the day
Mhm.
we're still going to love them, we're going to protect them and take care of them. So
Yeah.
but yeah, it's
Yeah,
just
that's
amazing.
definitely something. It is really amazing. I mean, it really is. And that is something that I tell the boys too is, hey, no matter how, bad you get in trouble or if you mess up, you have to come back to us
Hmm.
and, you have to know that we will love you no matter how
Yeah.
bad you mess up.
And
And I think of
that's
the
perfect.
prodigal son.
Yes, you took it right out of my mouth.
Really? Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because if we kind of like have that attitude of like, well, you messed up and you can't make it right with me again. Like
Yeah.
that is not a Christ-like attitude.
No, it's not.
Yeah. So, this kind of gets me thinking about, looking at society now and how society is treating boys or men. What are some of your thoughts about how society is really um, raising, some of the men and the boys out there.
Yeah. Well, we know that, when we don't have Christ, there's a lot of things that, can go wrong.
Hmm.
And something that I've always heard, that I've always hated, is that, boys will be boys, like they'll be
Yes.
rough,
Oh,
they'll be tough and this and that. Like, no, we have to teach them, to be respectful. We have to teach them to, when they see a lady, it's like, what is their first reaction? Not to go over and just like hover around her. No, like we're teaching them to be respectful men
Mm-hmm.
who want, you know, a respectable woman, you know? And I just really, really, when it comes to like our Hispanic culture, oh my goodness,
Yes.
like machismo, it's like a very big thing.
Yes,
Um,
it's true.
you know, and I know a lot of people have been raised that way, but I want my kids to, you know, be like, I'm feeling these emotions today. Sometimes it's okay to cry it out.
Mm-hmm.
Boys can cry. And I've always taught them that, you know what? My sister helped me a lot. And, you know, she told me, you know, if they get upset, let them feel their feelings. You can send them to the room. And then once they feel better, they'll come back to you and then they'll tell you what was wrong. Or,
Yes.
you know, they'll be in a much more calmer state you know, to be able to, you know, make that conversation with you again. And so that's something I've learned, you know, like, just because they're boys, it doesn't mean that they can't feel feelings,
Mm.
um, and they can't express themselves just like girls do.
Well, we know that they can express themselves for sure. They don't need anybody's permission about that. And I do think it's so crazy because, yeah, growing up and hearing, like boys don't cry, or even like things that, like, even hearing things like, oh, you throw like a girl, or just those like
Yeah,
silly things. It's easy for us to like say them, but I try my hardest to be like, hey, like if somebody has said that like around my boys or like to my boys, I will kind of call it out because I'm that kind of person, and not in a rude way, but I'll say, you know what, we really don't want to like say that because it's actually not true. There are a lot of girls who throw better than boys, and
right.
there are a lot of boys who cry more than girls. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? So it's all about being a human. And I think when we kind of like make all these boxes, when we keep these boys in these boxes, they're going to feel like they have to stay in that box. And so they're going to try and contain themselves in that box that like God never put over them. You know what I mean? Like God, like Jesus wept. Jesus showed emotion.
Yes.
Jesus was definitely not a boys will be boys kind of person. And so I feel like we have to be careful about those phrases because, yes, boys are definitely wired different than girls. And I think that's where that saying comes from because boys seem to be more adventurous. They don't have a lot of that cautionary like gene that some girls might have. But we also know, all of us know, some girls who would probably skydive without like without without even blinking an eye. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
we know some boys that would be like, "No, I'm good. I'm not even going to get up that ladder." So it's like, I think it all boils down to just being careful not to put all these like stereotypes and like these phrases on our boys because we're going to uh not give them enough room to just grow and be who God has made them to be.
Right. Right. That's definitely true.
I would love it if you could talk to all the boy moms out there. And the reason why I'm saying boy moms is I feel like uh, that's something that's very specific to our lives, and I think God really he teaches mothers how to mother the children that they have, and I think he does teach um, boy moms and girl moms a little bit different depending on obviously their children, but I do think that he gives us certain hopefully if we are in tune with him and if we seek his will, that he will help us to raise these boys to become godly men. And that's obviously my prayer for all of our boys and those out there. And I would love it if you could just talk to all the boy moms and, those who really want to raise godly boys. What would you say to them? What would be something that would encourage them right now?
Yeah. Well, I know as mothers, we have a lot of things we have to juggle sometimes. Some of us are full, you know, we're working full time. Both tasks are just incredibly difficult, and we can never, you know, find that balance. I feel like you'll never find a balance because, you know, someone always needs you or needs your attention. But I always, and this is coming from like a personal, you know, thing that God's been teaching me. It's, make time to pray, make time to speak life, speak, great things over your children. Because you want them to be, growing. We're in a world where things are not getting better. And we want our children, our boys to rise up, be better than the generation that's here now. I always think my dad always said, like, mija, I want you guys to, go to college, do this, do more than I was able to do. And that's the same feeling that I have for my children. Like, yeah, I aspire to be, let's say, a therapist, and I'm a working therapist. But I want them to go further. Like, if there's something that's out there for them that God has planned for their life, I want to speak life over that. I want for that to grow, for that seed to be planted in their life. And we should always continuously be planting seeds into their life. And that brings me back to what we were talking about earlier about what are we filling ourselves? What seeds do we have? What fruits are we producing that, we're planting into our children? And it's very important to sow those seeds into our lives. So then when those fruits are produced into our lives, then we can give that to our children. It's just so important to build that up, because like I said, we're raising up the next generation, and this next generation has to be stronger because things are not getting better. So we're going to need a strong foundation for what's coming. That's if Jesus doesn't come. But right. Like, wow, like just kind of sitting down and thinking about that, like we're responsible for so much. We think it's like, oh, I just have 2 kids to worry about, but like, imagine my next sister has another 2 to 5 kids. My next sister, we're building up a whole generation together. So our job is to push forth whatever plan God has for their life, and continue that prayer, continue praying over their lives, because generations are going to come. The generation after that, I want that to be even stronger, and the generation after that even stronger. And it's, once you start to think about all those things, you're just like, wow, we are a tiny little piece in our child's life, and it's all part of God's plan. We are chosen to be their parents for a reason. God knows why we were given the children we were given. And I think it's just so important for us to kind of wake up and be like, it's not just this little life that I have. It's a whole other generation coming up after I finish, quote, quote, finish my job of raising my child. So, right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, amen. That is such a good reminder. Thank you for that. It's something that we've actually been talking about here. One of the ways that we try, and at least I do, like during the week when I'm here with them, because I'm home, I'm fortunate to stay home, is I've been trying to cultivate like devotion with my kids, and like teaching them to respect and honor God's word. And also like breaking down the stories with them in kid-friendly ways so that they don't feel so abstract. And when you were talking about the generations, it kind of reminded me of, we've been talking about in our devotion, like Abraham and Sarah, and then you go to Isaac, and then you go to Jacob and Esau. And then so, I was teaching my oldest, I could see the light bulb go off when he realized, oh, like this, like he was his dad. And then he was his dad, and he was, you know what I mean? Yeah. And it just like really struck me when you were talking, like that imagery came in my head of just kind of like they get it, like the generations are connected. There's nothing that's not going to affect the next generation. Everything we do is going to affect the next generation. And we're not saying that to be fear mongering. You know what I mean? We're not saying that you don't have to have fear of the future. Yeah. Obviously, we know that the Lord has so many good promises, just like he had for Abraham. But, like you were saying, I feel like the word that really captures what you're trying to say is the being accountable. And we have this job to raise children. And if they're boys, then you have this amazing opportunity to raise like a godly man. Like
Yeah.
that is so powerful, and that blows my mind.
Yes.
And it does kind of seem overwhelming sometimes. I know you probably feel the same way. If
Yeah.
you're like, oh my gosh, like, am I raising like a preacher right now or a
Exactly.
missionary? Like, I don't know, Lord. If you send him overseas, you're gonna have to give me a blessing or something because I don't think I can handle my baby going overseas.
Yes.
But different things like that come to my mind. And so, yeah, I think it's just so important for us to remember that, you know, we shouldn't just think about today, but like what we're putting into our kids for tomorrow. And I love what you said about, like the seeds and the planting. And I think, if we just keep having that imagery in our head and reminding us of that, I think it will help us in the day-to-day things to be more accountable of what we're putting into our kids, especially into our little boys.
Yep. Totally. No, like you said, it's not to fear monger. It's
Mm-hmm.
just to give perspective of how important you are to them, to their lives, and you were chosen to be, that mom for your little one. And in their eyes, they don't see you as like, imperfect. They don't see you, everything that you do is fine. Okay, mama, I'll do it.
Yeah.
So just keeping into mind, like, if I take time to do self-care for myself, like why not, like, take the time to care for them too, in the aspect of forming them mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. So that's like the big thing for me. Like, I've been learning so much in this like year, like, we've had so much time to just think about,
I know.
oh wow, God, yeah, you're right, I should definitely work on that because I really need help. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just a lot of things that like have been like circulating in my mind and in my heart and my spirit, and I'm just like, yeah, God, you're right. I need to be
Yeah.
better. I need to do better.
Yeah, I've definitely felt that too. And I think a lot of us have, like you said, 2020,
Mm,
2020. That's how we gotta say 2020.
yeah.
But but one of the things that I learned too is somebody said this, and let me see if I'm gonna say this right. It's kind of rung in my head is you should have a life that you don't want to escape from. And that could that could be taken in many different ways. But I
Mhm.
took it as, you know what I mean? Like we should we should be appreciative and thankful for what we have and find joy in whatever situation. And like you said, like taking time to have self-care, whatever that looks like for you. Sometimes for me, that just means like taking a hot shower and washing my hair with
Mm,
nobody knocking on the door.
yeah, girl, that's
um,
the dream.
Sometimes that means keeping candy in my dresser for myself that nobody else gets to.
Mm,
Or just that quiet time in the morning before they wake up because hallelujah, my kids are a little bit older. I can do that now. But I can have that devotion and read the Bible and read the word and have that spiritual self-care that's important. And I think when we invest in our needs, it will help the needs of the rest of the family. And I think we cannot forget that. And I think hopefully 2020 has helped that a little bit to remind us to slow down and to be still, to rely on God because we really don't know what is going on, Lord. You know what's going on. We
yeah,
have no clue. Everybody's guessing this and guessing that, and we're probably all wrong. But we can trust in you. He's our foundation. He's the one that will fill our cup. Like you said, I love, what you were talking about earlier about you can't really serve from an empty vessel. You can't give from an empty vessel. And that's so important. So think about your personality and what will help you be a better mom. If you have a boy or girl, doesn't matter. Just a mom in general. We're all tired. I don't have this written down, but I would love to know, like, what are some of the things that help you kind of get your cup full and fill you up and that self-care that helps the day to day?
Well, I love music. I actually did sing for a little bit at church,
Mm.
led worship. Um, so I love worship. Worship, like singing songs, singing praise to God. Like I love that. And I love to just blast the music. And I don't care if they're there with me or if they're not there with me, but it just brings me so much like, oh my goodness, I think I'm actually doing an okay job when I see them, like praising and dancing and lifting their
Mm.
hands and closing their eyes, having little church like at home. And I love to see that because, I'm just like, okay, what I'm doing, it is pouring over towards them. And I love to write. I write. I feel like I don't write well, but I love to just express myself
Yeah.
in writing, whether it is through my Instagram caption or my blog, my personal blog, or through the church's blog. Like, I feel like God is always talking to me, always telling me things like, every time I receive a word, it hits me first.
Yes.
I feel it. I like either I'm experiencing it or I had experienced it. But it's always a word that I know just like it has filled my cup. It has
Mm.
touched my life. It has transformed me. And now I want to share it because if he can do it with me, he can do it with someone else. So
Yeah.
those are a couple things that I love to do.
Yeah, I do. I agree with that too. And, I was kind of smiling when you were talking about writing because I did grow up bilingual. I lost it obviously as I got older, but I always said that like there's certain things that I say or that I write that's not like proper. And
Yeah.
then the Lord really placed in my heart that like you're a writer, you're not an editor. That's somebody else will edit your stuff for you. So, as somebody who has written a few books, don't worry about that. So, if you ever feel called to write a book or something like that, Diana, you got it. You definitely are a writer, anyways, because whether it's an Instagram caption or a blog post or a book, it doesn't matter. It's the power of words that God is using. He's blessed you. He really has. That's one of the reasons why I asked you on the podcast. You do have a talent for writing. You do, and it's beautiful job. And I think that God is going to use that for His glory and for good. And I think when we pour ourselves into things that make us passionate and connect with His heart, and um, obviously, expressing the messages that He gave us first. I love what you said. It hits you first. That is so true. Any of the books that I've written, I mean, some of the books I didn't want to write because I was going through that season. So it's like I felt the Lord saying, "You need to share this now." And I'm like, "No, because that's going to expose like a problem that I had." You know what I mean?
Right.
Or I have. um
Right.
especially as a mom. But I do think that God does bless. He just gives us so many gifts. He's so good to us. He's so good. Whether it's, with through worship or through writing or even through, sharing fashion or whatever. He really can use all things for good. He really does.
Definitely. I feel like when you dedicate those talents to him, like that's going to be a blessing for someone. Like you said, whether it's sharing fashion, whether it's just writing, a little caption under your post, God is going to use that. If your intention is to speak his truth, God is going
Mm.
to use that. And I've experienced it where people like, hey, you know what? Like, I know I've been living a life, they just tell me, I know I've been living a life that's not for God, but this inspired me to go back. And I'm like, wow, like, even if it's just for one soul, one soul is
Yes.
worth so much more than any gold in the world. So it's just, it's a way of ministering. And I just feel so humble that God just puts those things into my heart and allows me to, just speak it, and I'm
Yeah.
trusting in him that no matter what happens in life, that he will lead the way, and I will just gladly follow because I know I can totally trust in him.
Yes. Amen. So, Diana, just thank you so much for taking time, honestly, truly. Thank you for being on the podcast, for sharing your heart with us, and really getting into this conversation about motherhood in general. And I really do love your heart. I miss seeing your face, during this time that I'm taking.
Yeah.
But God is just so, so good. And I'm so glad that we were able to connect today. Can you please share with everybody listening where they could find you again and where they could follow you online?
Sure. So my Instagram account is period modest mama. And then I also have a blog, a personal blog, is dmodestmama.com. So you guys are totally welcome to check that out.
So fun. Please do. She is amazing. You won't be disappointed. Diana, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you, JC.
Were you inspired by this episode? I hope so. If you were, please take a screenshot of your podcast player and share it on Instagram stories, tagging me at Hello Awesome Live. That's HelloAwesomelive. It really encourages me to see that you were blessed. Also, do you want a free digital devotional? Leave a 5-star review in iTunes and DM me a screenshot of the review with your email address. You'll be gifted a digital devotional of your choice as a thank you. To learn more about Hello Awesome, head to helloawesome.live. That's HelloAwesome.live. Until next time, keep your chin up, beautiful.